Good evening, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to our first CMA NXT Marketing Careers Night of 2025. So my name is Angelica Lagowski, and I'm the Director of Marketing here at the CMA. I lead the marketing and planning and strategy for all of CMA's professional development opportunities, the Chartered Marketer designation, which you might be familiar with, and our CMA NXT program. So now, for those of you that are joining us for the first time, and you might not be aware what CMA NXT is, well, it's this video online platform we created, and it's really turned into a community. It's thanks to our partnership with RBC, our founding lead sponsor. And with RBC's support, we're able to bring this platform to life to help bridge the gap between post-secondary education and professional life. By signing up to CMA NXT, you get free access to our online platform that allows you to uncover dozens of videos to build your personal brand, explore different career paths in marketing, and learn from our talented community of marketing leaders. We also, you might have noticed, we've launched a new series called The Next Voice, where you get to hear from chartered marketers and get their tips and advice on exciting marketing topics. So once you subscribe to NXT, you won't miss out on new content, new videos we post, and new blog that we publish on our page. And as well, you'll get notified when we have new events just like this. So we really encourage you to sign up when you can, if you haven't already. And now, because this is a social event, we definitely want to make sure you socialize and you go follow us on either Instagram and LinkedIn, and we'd love to know that you're tuning in. And also, that's where we post a lot more updates about what's going on in the NXT community, and we really reshare a lot that goes on the CMA as a whole. So we invite you to get social with us. Now, while we are meeting in a virtual capacity today, we would like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous lands on which we are grateful to live, work, and play. From coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this nation home. We must reaffirm our commitment to improving relationships between nations and to respecting local Indigenous people and cultures. As a visitor on this land, we strive to deepen our understanding of the local Indigenous communities. And at CMA, we respect this land that we are on today, and we are committed to growing as an association. So now let's dive into today's event. We have gathered 5 awesome speakers today to go through a panel discussion and uncover the career journeys and advice from these marketers. So after we hear from our speakers, we'll start off our live Q&A session, which is really fun. And we invite you to raise your hand at that point, or ask a question, or type in the chat. So let's give a warm welcome to Amy Bell, Design and Store Experience Project Manager at Farm Boy.
Hi there. Welcome, everyone.
Oh, there we go. Awesome. Thanks, Amy, for joining. Then we have Kevyn Murray, Senior Manager, Digital Marketing at LifeLabs.
Hey, everyone.
And Leeanne Mezzatesta, Regional Marketing Senior Manager. And actually, Leeanne, we just saw on LinkedIn, you got recently promoted to Senior Manager of Brand Strategy at PwC. So congrats on the promotion.
Thank you. Hey, everybody.
Next, we have Jack Harding, President and Founder of Diner Agency.
Hi, everyone.
And Victoria Rauseo, Marketing Manager at RBC.
Good evening.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. And we just saw a prompt on the chat. So yeah, definitely feel free to connect with the speakers on LinkedIn. We're all here to share tips and advice and help everyone on their career paths. So let's kick off the event. And I'd love to know from each of you, tell us about your current role, your story, and how you got into marketing. So how about we start off looking at my screen, Amy.
My name by alphabet has always had me at the front. If I was to change my name, it would be with a Z. Anyhow, thank you. I am 32 years in some form of design or marketing capacity. My very first foray into any type of design or marketing was a summer job when I was about 15, and I was working for a small sign maker, and everything was hands-on, and there weren't computers. It was, very traditional art. I had no idea what I was doing, no idea where I was going, but it was the spark for where I am now. So I ended up choosing York University, and there was a 4-year undergrad BFA, so a Bachelor of Fine Arts. I specialized in graphic design, and I took a minor in humanities. There was no co-op program. There was no internship. And now the program is 5 years long. And I do believe they have those layers available to students, which is, a super advantage. My first role was free. I worked for about 2 months for a small but known public relations company in Ottawa, which is where I currently live and did then. It wasn't lovely, nor did it relate to design, but it was a chance to get close to the marketing industry, work in a promotions and PR relationship. I was challenged to arrange Canada Day programming and get some performers up on a stage and then make sure that it all happened. I wasn't trained for this, but somehow it still fit. And I think most people in the marketing category would say that they wear a few hats. At the very end, they gave me a $500 gift for the time spent, 8 weeks. And the key takeaway for that, for anyone sort of offering up their time, find an owner who has great connections, a good reference who's willing to mentor you, and share with you, not just take your time for free. And I was fortunate to have that situation. The very next role, I actually did get in as a graphic design. I covered a paternity leave, which meant there was no going forward with that company, which was hard because it is where I wanted to work, but I was very junior. Key takeaway from that one, work for someone well-known. Again, this was an Ottawa region, well-based company. They're still around today, and it was a good door opener. As long as you can leave a good impression, you can gain a good reference. So even if that's just your personality and your willingness, and maybe your work isn't so strong because you're young, you shouldn't feel that a good reference isn't, earned. And then finally, I landed a role as a permanent junior designer, a very small company. I learned a lot because it's close-knit. That can be a nice thing outside of working for a big company. So don't shy away from the small opportunities would be the takeaway there. And over the time and the years accumulated, I've had over 10 different creative positions. I've owned and operated 2 freelance companies quite successfully. And, in the multiple times worked part-time as well to keep the funds coming in, because it's not always lucrative at the start, but be patient and work hard and you'll get there.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Amy. It's really an interesting point to know that, you might not just find that one opportunity and be stuck in a role. There's very much flexibility, and sometimes you got to jump around to find what fits, and the tip of being patient is definitely helpful. So thank you. Next up, Kevin, let's hear your story.
Thank you. So I promise I've got some pretty cool stuff to share, but there is nothing overly exciting about my journey into marketing. Coming out of school, I was pretty limited in terms of what I could get into. So I ended up studying communications at the University of Ottawa. I finished there, and fair to say I was pretty terrified at the idea of entering the workforce. So I decided to do a 1-year PR program, public relations program at Mohawk College. There, I did an internship with an agency that specialized in government and politics. Realized pretty quickly that wasn't for me, wanted nothing to do with that. So right out of school, I was ultimately at the mercy of whoever would take me. And I ended up at a marketing agency that specialized in native advertising in traditional media. So basically, I was writing branded news articles for dying newspapers to use in their publications because they had cut all their editorial staff. But it was here that the version of Kevin speaking to you today was born. Because as I was ghostwriting those news articles for the Oakville Beaver and the Peterborough Examiner, I realized maybe digital marketing is the future. Now, I'm not going to age myself, but this was some time ago. So I was somewhat forward thinking in my outlook. And from that point on, I said, you know what, screw it. I'm a digital marketer. So I fast forward to today, and I specialize in e-commerce and performance marketing. I've built the analytics and digital marketing infrastructure for 2 of Canada's most trusted brands, Sobeys and LifeLabs. I have a degree in e-commerce, and I've also taught e-commerce at colleges and universities across Canada. I'm a small business mentor at McMaster University's incubator program, and I also volunteer my digital expertise to organizations like the Hamilton Cardinals pro baseball team and Breakthrough Type 1, which is a diabetes foundation. So I sit on the CMA, shout out, the MarTech Council with people who are way smarter than me. So to summarize, digital marketing and healthcare, that's me. And honestly, I know healthcare, it sounds so, but that's because what our healthcare system really is sick care. What I love is proactive health, patient empowerment, longevity. Let's make the absolute most of the short time that we have on this planet. That's the space that I'm passionate about. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin. Thank you for the shout out. Love that you're on the MarTech Council. For those of you that don't know, the CMA has a ton of councils across all the different categories in marketing, and it's a great way for mid-level to senior marketers to stay involved at CMA. So I love that you're giving back to the space, being so involved in whether it's the communities you're supporting or back teaching. So lots of exciting things that I'm sure you'll touch upon later as we go through more of the questions. So thanks for sharing your story. Leeanne, how about you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think initially when I first decided I wanted to try out marketing, I think it was actually a high school class dedicated to marketing and business that first got me intrigued. And I remember applying to different university programs, and it was Wilfrid Laurier that had not only a business program, but the opportunity to specialize in marketing. So that's where I ended up going for school. They also had a really great co-op program. So I think that was one of the things that stood out to me was how do I get applicable experience, find a way into the workforce. So I was really fortunate throughout my time at Laurier to get placed at a co-op placement at TransUnion, so one of the credit bureaus in Canada. And I actually stayed there. So I had all of my co-op placements there. And then I also, when I was off cycle of co-op, got to work there part-time. So by the time I graduated, I had gotten to, kind of have feet in both worlds, and then took my first official job outside of school at TransUnion as well, part of their marketing team. So I think what was interesting for me is heading into the workforce and the world of marketing. I really hadn't heard about B2B marketing, so business to business. And that's, for TransUnion, for example, they sell their, data, credit data in forms of products to places like the big banks. So for me, that was really interesting because growing up in school, a lot of the promotion of marketing is more on the B2C side. So, companies like Coke or Pepsi and some of those things, you'll see ads on TV. So for me, B2B was something I wasn't exposed to, and I didn't really even consider it initially as a marketing career path. So that was really cool to get that exposure. I really attribute it to the co-op program and kind of getting to build my network through Laurier. And then through that graduation program, worked at TransUnion for quite a few years, different roles across events, digital, social media, marketing strategy. And then today I am in a current role at PwC. So I had done some events and different marketing projects and have recently taken on a brand role, which I'm very excited about. So I've kind of done all the different facets of B2B marketing. And I guess I'll also give a shout out to CMA because this year I also got to join their B2B marketing council. So it's been great to kind of see the progression, trying out different areas, and then getting to meet with other marketers who have had, different experiences and continuing to learn from that. So yes, that's how I got here, and very happy to be joining the group tonight.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'm sure a couple of our registrants will have some questions about like the co-op, and it really just shows the power of like when you do take opportunities, whether it's a co-op, a paid or even non-paid internship, like credit-based or volunteer opportunities, how powerful they are to like just grow your experience. So it's really awesome to hear that you share that. And again, exciting that you are moving up and into the brand management side of things. Awesome. How about Jack?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My path is not conventional at all, which is always kind of a nice thing to share. It didn't start with school. It kind of did. I, coming out of high school, really thought I wanted to be a banker. I went to what was formerly Ryerson. I was in their international finance and economics program. I was like, great, this is fantastic, great paying jobs. Very quickly realized this is not what I want to do. I had been working for a Canadian clothing brand called Leeanne Durables when it was still family owned. Really interesting kind of vertical business. They made all their clothes here. All of their employees were here. Just very kind of a cool business for someone who was really interested in fashion. I ended up going to George Brown College's fashion management program. It included a co-op in that program, which is something I was really excited about. I went to the leadership at Tilly's at the time and I said, hey, I've been here for like 4 years. I'm, really interested in the business, would love to see if I can be involved this way. I then got to split my time between the fashion manufacturing part of the business and marketing, which is something I had had no exposure to before. That was where I fell in love with it and realized how much opportunity there is in marketing and how much you can bring sort of any of your interests to life through some sort of channel at marketing. That started with me in copywriting. I was writing the banners for their website. I was writing some of the teasers that were going into some of their ads they were doing in the Star. When that internship finished, I then finished school. I, in my spare time, was spending every minute reading about everything from search engine optimization to the early days of social. This was before Instagram. Twitter was kind of just starting. And I became very good at search. I started a fashion website. It was resources, how to wear everything imaginable. I wrote over 1,200 articles in about a year and a half. It was number 1 or number 2 on search for a lot of those articles. So it was doing millions of visits a month. I then sold that business to a large retailer in the US, started a second site, which was in the entertainment space, used those skills, but also this passion for kind of creating online communities. I ended up selling that business as well. It became a gossip section of a very well-respected publishing company. And then I was like, well, you know what? I should probably have a job and learn something, because to me, the best part of what I was doing was the fact that I felt like I was absorbing everything like a sponge. And I was having all these opportunities to work with people where I could really learn and grow from what they've been doing. I ended up taking a job for a company here run by an advertiser named Jeffrey Roche. The company was called Dog Book. It was like Facebook for dogs. Ended up scaling that community to over 10 million dog lovers. I was doing influencer marketing with the popular dogs before that was even an industry. And that really kind of kickstarted my interest in the endorsement and influencer space from that love of building community. It's how I built, our agency is one of Canada's best influencer management and talent agencies. We help build businesses and careers for people, which has been one of the most satisfying parts of everything I've done. And I like to lend a lot of my skills to charity. I've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for healthcare, homelessness prevention, and mental health care. Because if you don't have a home, if you're not well, whether physically or mentally, you don't have that leg up in order to perform and exceed. And I really think that's something we should invest in. I'm also the co-chair of University Health Network's United Impact Collective, and I'm on the Insight Council at the CMA. So it's been a fun path getting here. And thanks for having me this evening.
Amazing. And I love in the chat, people are already getting inspired, and we're just in the beginning of intro. So fantastic to hear. And you'll have to tell me about this influencer dog marketing. I've been trying to get my dog famous.
It's a lot harder now than it was 10 years ago.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing, Jack, and thanks for tuning in today. Victoria, how about we hear from you?
Of course. Hi, everyone. So I actually started my career out, or actually went to school at Queen's, did my BHA, or BAH, sorry, studying geography with a specialization in GIS. I really loved learning about people and how they interact in the various different environments, and diving into that data and its visualization tactics. After a few years in that industry, I went back to school to do a post-grad in marketing management at Humber. And this is where I was able to jumpstart my career in marketing, partaking in an agency day, which was an initiative led by a collective of Toronto agencies, where they opened their doors to students and networking opportunities. It was through this event that I landed my first internship at Diamond and dove deep into the world of experiential marketing. While in experiential marketing, I really honed the art of creating those meaningful experiences and touch points between consumers and brands, and worked on everything from trade shows and festivals through to permanent retail spaces and malls across Canada. So if you're in that hustle right now, know it's all worth it. Been there, lots of long hours, but I think it really helped set me up to be the marketer I am today. After the stint with Experiential for a few years, I joined in-house creative agency, where I continued to develop my project management skills and learned about the world of digital marketing. It was here I gained a passion for brand, which is where I still am today, and had an opportunity to work with an amazing team, honing the art of brand stewardship, governance, and being responsible for all the training and mass campaigns and even the perk portfolio. I learned the art and complexities behind loyalty programs and really developed that love for building brand affinity, which you can take to any company in any role. So all these experiences really set me up to success when moving over to RBC. I joined first their loyalty program, Avion Rewards, with a strategic focus on partnerships and the offers portfolio, where it opened my eyes to the complexities of the highly regulated financial industry, but afforded me so many amazing opportunities to create those unique experiences for our premium clients. And then last but not least, I moved over to the insurance business, where I got to bring brand sponsorships and community impact, so the charitable giving all together under one umbrella. And that role really connected my love for building community through charity work and those strong brands, and got to work on a bunch of amazing partnerships and give money to those most meaningful and impactful across Canada. So lots of exciting projects on that table. And I've actually just recently started a role in December on the B2B side. So I know, Leeanne, you talked a little bit about B2B and how that's different from direct to client marketing, but I'm really keen to learn and build out my my skill set on the B2B side and learn a little bit more about product marketing.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I think that's like a good kind of comment, just to have those that are looking to get into marketing understand that there's so many different career paths. Like even just having all of you together right now, we can hear all the different career paths. So marketing, it's not just, oh, you'll get into branding, or you'll work on the agency side or the creative side or strategy. There's so much. And that's what we're doing at CMA NXT, actually, is we release videos and blogs and content to allow aspiring marketers to get a chance to understand what are these career paths that you can kind of jump into, and the fact that you can also move around a lot as well, depending where you go in a larger or smaller company. So wonderful to hear your stories and kind of how you all ended up in marketing. I'd love to kind of jump into my next question, which is, tell me what you love working, why you love working in marketing. So this could just be, a short answer, or just something that really excites you about working in the marketing profession. So yeah, let's hear who wants to start.
I'll go.
Yeah.
I really like marketing because I have a lot of friends and clients in different fields where you look at their job year in and year out, and it is essentially the same type of work every year. You swap out the number on the 2020 whatever, and you wouldn't know where they are based on looking at their computer or what they're outputting. The fact that this job, well, it can be very stressful at times, it also affords you so many opportunities to learn and do and try so many different things. And you may not like all of them, and that's also part of working. But you end up discovering so many new things that you enjoy, and some of those end up becoming personal passions and projects. So I just think the variety is really what makes it the best kind of career path, at least in my mind.
Awesome. Who's next?
I can build on that. Jack, I think you said it perfectly. Just the variety and like always adding tools to your toolkit, like constantly learning. I think the technology is constantly changing. Consumers' needs are always evolving, and it's just finding unique ways to meet those through various channels and tactics, depending your product and brand, of course. So I think like that's something that I love most about marketing, as well as being able to work on a variety of different brands. I'm not necessarily pigeonholed in a specific way, shape, or form. Like throughout my career, I just talked about my journey. I'm always kind of focused around the same line. Again, always keeping that consumer first, but kind of specializing on different tactics throughout. So I think the flexibility, the constant change, it just fires my brain in different ways than the mundane. I had a career in the mundane and it didn't last too long. It was just, I got bored. Never bored in marketing.
Yeah, exactly. I think, Leeanne, you were going to go next.
Yeah, I was going to say, echoing very similar things, but what I love about marketing, I think it's a great marriage of, creativity. You can also analytical, kind of the data side and problem solving. So I always fell somewhere in the middle, wanting to use different sides of my brain. But if you're, really creative, there's roles for you. If you're really more into the numbers and the data side, there's roles for you. So I think that flexibility is really nice. And then just echoing what others have said, like no 2 days are the same. Some days you're coming up with a creative name for an event, or other days you're trying to understand why a certain subject line is performing better than others. Like, you just really get to jump into different roles and wear different hats. And that is why I continue to kind of fall in love with marketing again and find new facets of it that I just enjoy. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting field and it's never boring.
I can go next. I'll be actually I'm going to be a bit specific with what I love about marketing. And I'm going to say it's the storytelling with data. So, I mean, we can call it executive reporting, leadership reporting, and for all you aspiring agency marketers, client reporting. I mean, I love setting up the digital analytics infrastructure within a company so that basically everything is trackable and you know what's working and what's not. I mean, you could run the best campaign in the world, but unless you're really taking the time, this is the voice of the client side, but unless you're taking the time to showcase the results to those who matter and delivering it in an impactful way, you'll never get the great recognition that the good work deserves.
And I guess that leaves it for my last comments. I concur with everything that everyone said. There's never a dull day in marketing. There's also a certain pace that has you firing on all cylinders pretty much every day. For me, I like that marketing is a very emotional business. It's very engaging. I work for essentially a single stakeholder working in one company, but at the same time, I have multiple stakeholders across the business. I like that we figure out how to strike the right chord for the intended audience. We like to find that deep resonation with people that stays with them. That's always the best challenge. And then, yes, to gather that data and confirm we got it right and start with the data is actually more important. Data is the proof in the pudding. It's also a very collaborative field of work. On my team, we have people that are in very specific roles, of course, that's how you're hired, but we all bring our experiences to the table for pretty much every problem solving. And it could be life experience, work experience, education experience. And I think that we pull the little bits out of all of us and put it all together for great solutions. A lot of creative thinkers. Conversations are colorful. The brainstorming is engaging and welcoming. Everyone's invited to put their ideas out there. It's all problem solvers, planners, writers, designers. Everyone comes to the table together for very fulfilling campaigns, programs, tiny short initiatives that you can see an ROI on very quickly, and big long projects that you can really sink your teeth into and grind away in over the course of a year or two, depending what your end goal is. So at the end of the day, I just love the emotion that comes from all the different energies of all the different people on the team, and including the customer and the stakeholder.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for sharing. And just building on that, I think in marketing was also great, just the people, right? I think we were all very fun, creative. If anyone's been to a CMA Awards, we love to celebrate our profession, celebrate, awesome work, awesome campaigns. So I think that's a big piece of it. And I really appreciate everyone sharing. It really makes me want to continue my work, right? Just hearing everyone's kind of perspective. So speaking about campaigns and work we've done, I'd be really interested to hear about an exciting project or campaign you worked on. And I'm going to start with you, Jack, because you've had a lot of different roles and experiences. So yeah, let's hear what's something fun you worked on.
I mean, Dog Book was pretty fun. I think in terms of biggest campaign, I worked with Jeffrey Roche and we did the rebranding of the Heart and Stroke Foundation. So when they switched over to the new heart and the stroke as the strong word logo or strong kind of image logo. So we developed their entire creative platform. And it was very cool having been so heavily in the digital side of things, getting to do what was considered a lot of traditional, going to the sound studios where the editors are mixing to make sure the audio is just perfect. It's not being done in Adobe by someone. Getting to go to some of the radio houses and actually have some of these talent come in to record commercials and record the PSAs. I think it was just one of those opportunities where you get to touch a little bit of everything, which was very satisfying for me. So I always encourage people, if you get a chance to try something that's kind of out of your comfort zone and you're able to do it in a way where, not that you won't fail, but if you don't do well, it's not necessarily going to impact anything and you get that chance to learn, you should really jump at it, because it was so satisfying and something that I get to look back on and feel very proud of.
Awesome. All right, next up, how about you, Leeanne?
Yeah, I think one of the fun, or I guess interesting projects I got to work on this past year, we've done in the role I was in at PwC, we did a lot of marquee events. So we're looking for these kind of flagship moments with some of our VIP clients to make these really memorable moments that would associate, positive emotions with our firm and get to really build and foster those important relationships. So we were sponsoring the Toronto International Film Festival this year, which meant that as part of that sponsorship, we got to invite clients to an exclusive film premiere. And a lot of that creative concept is I think we dubbed it our silver screen soiree. There was a lot of really fun, film and movie inspired imagery and creative concepts that were really fun to work on with our team. And it was just something that, I personally was really excited to be a part of, because we got to bring them in, we had a nice networking reception, and then they got to sit down and watch this film, and the stars who had acted in that film were actually there at the end of the night to answer questions. And that was just a really kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity, but the marketing and the promotion and the creativity that got to go into promoting and generating excitement for that event was just very rewarding to see it all come together. So that was definitely a really special one.
Yeah, I think when you get to kind of dive into something that you've been helping to promote for so long, it's like really cool to be part of the activation or the event. So yeah, really
Absolutely.
cool. Thanks for sharing. Victoria, how about you?
For sure. So I worked in many interesting roles in a variety of amazing brands over the years, and having specialized on brands specifically for the past 10, I've been able to work on countless big budget campaigns, and those commercials that Jack was talking about being in the studio is really special. But one of my most favorite recent projects was when I was on the brand sponsorship and community impact team with RBC Insurance. On the community side, we partnered with Ronald McDonald House Canada on a matching campaign to drive awareness and consideration for the charity, as well as the partnership. And it was so special because it was really driven on that insight, again, going back to the storytelling, that 1 in 4 Canadians have been touched by Ronald McDonald House. And it connected so many Canadians, allowing them to share their story of the meaningful work that the organization does, and really shone a light on the partnership of our shared mission as really helping Canadians and families and communities during unexpected times of need. So it was a huge collaboration with our partners at Ronald McDonald House. They were absolutely stellar, leading the development of the campaign, and then finding unique ways for to engage our employees and bring everyone along for the journey so they could experience this across Canada. It had some trade show elements, some pop-up booths, of course, the digital campaign side of things, but what ultimately came out of it was huge awareness and engagement, loads of content for both brands, and over $250K raised for the charity. So it tied in my passion for marketing and community, and really was impactful.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I know a lot of people that really have seen so much value from the charity, and to actually be part of that and see the work that RBC contributes towards that is really great to hear. Amy, how about yourself?
My experience is really kind of granular, and it just fills my heart. But you made me think of something that I sort of forgot about. We were actually a CMA award winner last year, Farm Boy, for Sugar Wharf location. Caught us by surprise. We were the underdog. I attended the event. Super heartwarming to be acknowledged, and it just put our teamwork right up on that front stage. And I really appreciated the honor. The other one was I worked for IKEA for 5 years. Love that culture. And I don't know if you're familiar, but all the stores have a giant billboard, and it's massive. And we follow a global strategy that filters down to all the stores and countries. including, when the package arrives to Canada, IKEA Canada then makes it nationally flavored and relevant. And then you're given your directive. You're really not supposed to tweak it locally, but it's a large cash investment for this company to roll these billboards over. And I just, I'm the one designer in the corner of the IKEA marketing group. And I put my hand up and I said, I think there's a better strategy. And that hadn't been heard before, someone taking a different position other than just following along. And not only was I able to redesign the billboard, which had never been permitted, it had to go back to Sweden for approval. It was that kind of pivoting point where they thought, okay, well, maybe there's another way of looking at this tool and the reach and the spend. We saved over $250,000 on it, which then gets put back into, different programmings. And then there's just the sheer thrill of seeing your work. It's really cool to see something out there in the world. And at the end of the day, I got to drive by it constantly, and eventually they returned to it, a more regular programming. But sometimes you get those really unique moments. And if you're not afraid to put your hand up and say, hey, I think there's another way, you can be really proud at the end.
Oh, I love that story. So amazing that you took that initiative. And it just really shows, like, even early in your career, just share your ideas, right? I think it doesn't hurt to just share an idea, and it just shows the creativity that's possible in the problem solving. And, that's why working with different levels of marketers, and that's why we do the councils as well, right? Because we like to bring in different marketers and get different perspectives as we make new things added to our calendar or whatnot, or everything that we do. And congrats, Amy, on the CMA award. Amazing that you were there. Yeah, it's such a great event. So definitely recommend it to all as you progress in your careers. And lastly, Kevin, let's hear from you.
Lastly, so I got to set the table a bit for mine. So for anyone who doesn't know on the call, LifeLabs, where I work, is the largest medical laboratory in Canada. So although we are $1 billion organization, a lot of that money comes from government. So we're incredibly lean when it comes to our business development resourcing. So I have been thrown into the deep end in a very good way with a lot of different campaigns and projects. So the most interesting one I would say I've worked on, and I apologize, I'm going to trigger some PTSD with this, but it was COVID. So working in the medical diagnostic testing space through COVID was like nothing that I have ever experienced and probably will never experience again. So prior to, I launched the first direct-to-consumer e-commerce solution in the medical lab space in Canada. Again, along that patient empowerment theme that I mentioned off the top. And we were doing low 7 figures in revenue. So pretty good, right? Medical lab testing. We're not selling shoes. But then literally within a 24-hour window of turning on our COVID business, we go to a 9-figure per year trajectory. And that sustained for 2 years. So I was leading an e-commerce business that ranked in the top 50 in Canada for both revenue and volumes. I mean, we partnered with the federal government, with Google, with Meta, because remember, it wasn't that long ago, as a Canadian, you needed testing for everything, to travel, to go back to work, literally everything. And we ran, can't say all of it, most of it. So from both a scale standpoint and some of the partnerships that we had access to at LifeLabs, that was definitely my favorite campaign. I mean, we were working with government employees from all across the world, Finnish governments, literally you name a country, we were working with them for travel purposes. We had access to Google's engineering team because LifeLabs was not the answer, but we were one of the answers to getting life back. But operating at that scale was not all sunshine and lollipops. I mean, we had no idea what was involved operating at that scale. So we got our asses kicked when it came to things like refund management and customer service. I remember, I managed the e-commerce call center, again, a little bit outside the scope of marketing. And I remember having to call frantic travelers who needed their negative test results to board a flight, people in tears because they couldn't get on a flight to see a sick family member without a negative test. But I'll certainly never forget that experience. Yeah, that's me.
Definitely one of a kind of experience, but I'm sure you guys learned so much out of that. And I can't even imagine where that's kind of taken LifeLabs now. So wow, love the energy that you have on that front. Continuing on, we have many of us joining today are either in a marketing or business program. Perhaps you're a newcomer looking to jump into a marketing role, or you're just thinking about transitioning and just jumping into marketing. So I kind of want to close off this part of the discussion with getting advice on what everyone here would give to someone who's eager to enter our profession. And I'll just open it up so we can kind of just build off of each other's answers. And then afterwards, we'll jump into the Q&A. So yeah, let's hear some advice.
I mean, I just went on mute, so maybe I'll just unmute myself again and go. But so I mentioned off the top, when I was looking to crack the industry, crack the biz, I was at the kind of at the mercy of whoever would take me. And for many of us, that is the nature of the beast. But I mean, it is important to never lose sight about what you're passionate about. I mean, there's some of us as marketers who are really in it for the marketing, like the selling. That's what you're passionate about. That's what we love. But I mean, as you progress into your careers, you have to make sure that you are engaged in the industry or the vertical that you're working within. Because at the end of the day, if you are marketing or selling something that you do not believe in or care about, your fire will burn out quite quickly. So, I mean, ultimately, this is cliche, but never lose sight of your passions and always work towards them professionally. Because if you can blend the personal and the professional passions that you have, you'll be a happy marketer.
Yeah, just to build off of that, I really think it's important that you find a good sense of self and like yourself, honestly, which is a challenging thing to say, but it helps you immensely in giving you that confidence when you want to go try something. There is, to Kevin's point about making sure that you like what you do have to find that joy, right? And you may not always be getting that in your 9 to 5 because you're using that to get that experience, but you can keep that passion alive through learning, by getting involved, by starting something of your own. It doesn't necessarily have to be the path into a job. Perhaps you make your own. But I think it's important that you find that thing that you like, but also stay flexible in that, there might be different paths to get you to that thing that you like, or it may not look traditional, but it doesn't mean that it's wrong. So kind of being open and being willing, and just sort of letting to see where things take you. Obviously, you can have a goal of where you want to be, but that's not necessarily the best place for you to go. So, do your best and really just kind of focus on liking what you're doing, whatever that ends up being.
I completely concur, Jack. And I'd also, if I was one of the people that signed up for this and they're listening to this panel, even for myself, this panel has an incredible amount of experience and talent that even I find is a bit overwhelming. And I think you need to take everyone that's willing to talk to you about your career, take it in, even if it feels completely over your head, and know that I find this industry is super supportive of people that are willing to, ask for help, reach out, where should I go? For me, I find that having multiple creative threads and feeds and resources in my life all of the time continues to inspire me, keeps me on the creative edge, keeps me knowing what's happening around the industry. I follow all kinds of things: architecture, sculpture, materials, papers, cutting edge sign fabricators, B2B groups. Try to get to some trade shows if you think they're relevant or not. You can get into some of them for free. You can get in as a student. Try and stay connected with your professors. As you're stepping out that door, make that last little connection. Hey, can I reach out to you here if you're not already linked to them? I still speak to some of those people, and it was a long time ago. And now I can speak to them on an industry level, which is really cool. But I think you need to, for example, let's say you're trying to get in and right now you work in a restaurant. How in that industry can you somehow get into marketing? Hey, can I help you make that poster? Oh, hey, why did you make that decision in your advertising? Ask the questions, because it just sparks to someone else that this is what you're interested in. And that's how you get those doors open. So never be shy, because I'd say in marketing, everyone's willing to listen.
I'd love to build on that, Amy. I think that was such a great point. And really what I wanted to come across is just say, like, be curious and find those opportunities. You don't need to have a job with a marketing title to be a marketer. Like, you can social media has absolutely exploded. You can create your own brand and market whatever you want there and experiment. I think the biggest thing about marketing, the takeaway that I've learned throughout my career is always stay curious, always stay learning. And whether you're branding yourself, or let's say you're working that part-time job and they need help with the poster, or what I did, well, I was in university, I was working at a gym in aquatics, and I set up the customer service booth and literally marketed swim programs to folks. I think there's so many different ways that you can get out there and get ahead of it and really build your skill set and have something that you can have to your resume, and those successes and those little wins that will really help you stand out as you're applying to those jobs in the marketplace, because they're going to want to know their experience, but you don't have to have a fancy like organization behind it. It could be anyone, as long as you're able to show your work. So stay curious and keep trying things, experiment.
And I can, I guess, round us out there, maybe echoing a lot of what some of the folks have said, because I completely agree. But I think one of the most valuable things that took some of the pressure off for me was finding out what you don't like is equally valuable to finding out what you do like. Because sometimes, you're trying to figure out which path do I want to take. There's so many options, and put your hand up, try new experiences. Even if you're just learning that that's not where you want to stay, that's a valuable experience, in my opinion. And you just kind of chip away at that. And then as you take on new roles, you start to learn what you like. And then for the next role, hopefully that portion that you did like is a larger part of the next role. And you continue to iterate. And as you, continue to develop in your career, what you like can even change. So I think putting less pressure to get it right immediately out of the gate, and embracing those opportunities to learn what you don't like in addition to all of that, I think is really helpful.
If I could add one more piece there, I think we've all kind of touched on it, but haven't said it, is just like the networking side of things too. Every job I've had throughout my career has literally been through a reference, an internal reference, because people move around you and you keep your brand strong. And raising your hand for those unique opportunities at your current role, who knows where that's going to get you, but maintain your network. Don't always be there asking them for something, but see if there's ways that you can provide value to these folks when it's not something that you need at the time as well. So keep that network open and alive and strong.
Such great advice, everyone. And actually, I'm peeking at the Q&A where we're getting a lot of questions in there. And the first one I see is actually someone who's looking for tips on what to do when they're in a non-business field. So they're studying history in this case. And so I think some of you already touched on this, and I'll just kind of add my thoughts and allow anyone else to kind of add on, is that just because you're in a history role doesn't mean you can't volunteer. There's so many opportunities. Like I uncovered when I was in university, there's work study positions. So you can go to your program and they probably have a marketing department, right? So even if you're studying history, you can go into the department and be like, what can I do on your marketing side? Do a work study position, or go to the associations, right? Each university, college most likely has a marketing association. That's a lot what we do at the CMA, is we connect to those associations and we want to chat with the groups and organize events. So yeah, definitely that. But anyone else have any tips for someone who's not studying marketing but wants to get into the space?
Yeah, I mean, the history example, these jobs are kind of few and far between, but there's a role at some large organizations, almost like a brand historian, someone who's articling everything that brand has done and built over the years. If you're even looking to start from a place of interest, finding a few of your favorite brands and doing kind of your level of research, but deep into that history, seeing how it's evolved and looking for some of those themes. I think there's a lot of learning that can be done, seeing how some of the largest brands pre-digital have either stayed or gone away from being some of those larger brands. With a lot of learning and insights that can be had, and shows a genuine interest. So if that's someone wanting to transition to a marketing job afterwards, it's shown that level of detail and attention that can go into something with that genuine interest. So you may not necessarily have the best school experience, but you could have just that drive and ambition that's enough to make someone want to take a chance.
If all else fails, watch a YouTube video and fake it till you make it.
Yep.
There you
But
go.
no,
Yeah.
there are concise programs. I mean, I did an e-commerce program. I think it was a 8 to 12 months, and that kind of went from there, right? So there are shorter programs that you can take if you want to specialize. There's lots of good large language model programs out there right now for prompt engineering that I encourage all of my team to take. So there are more concise programs that are available to us.
Yeah, great tips. I'm gonna move on to the next one because we have like 20 questions. He's got a lot of interest. So this one is, as a marketing professional with 3 to 4 years of experience, I find myself in an interesting space. Not quite entry level, but not yet seen as a seasoned expert. I've had exposure to various niches within marketing, and I'm now considering which direction to specialize in. Should I focus on brand marketing, advertising, product marketing, or marketing operations? Additionally, which industries are worth exploring or have greater job opportunities moving forward?
I wouldn't mind starting there. I think you know, the opportunity to look at big business as well as small business, it will, you can find that range of opportunities typically despite the size of the business. So don't be intimidated. If you're not sure, you've got those strengths that you're looking at, not quite sure where you want to be. Yes, I would encourage, you know, a big company might have more areas of growth, but a small company is also very easy to move around in and potentially move up in. And I've worked in both of those environments, as well as government, high tech. And I found, even if you're, you know, you really want to go out and sell the bananas, but right now they're asking you to organize and ship the bananas. If you have enough passion for that to go out and try it, all the while still focusing on selling the bananas, you can slowly try to work on that lateral move and eventually grow that role. So try to be very open-minded in where you think the opportunities are. And there is marketing in every business out there. So you don't necessarily have to be looking for an art agency, a marketing company, a PR firm. You could be looking at healthcare. You could be looking at the light rail. I opened the light rail for Ottawa. That was completely out of my zone, but they have a whole marketing department. So be very eyes wide open that this industry is threaded everywhere you look. And then you might be able to tie it to example for a history experience, as our first question was.
And I think this kind of what you're saying, Amy, kind of touches the next question we had, which is someone who has shared that, you know, they've had a job in marketing, they did their undergrad, they had a postgrad certificate, they did all this, plus internships at George Brown College, and they're finding it's not enough for the job market. And, you know, they're really asking, you know, what could be advice to, you know, really be able to find a marketing career. And I think kind of what you've touched on, Amy, is gonna stem an answer for this, is that, you know, you don't necessarily have to just be looking for a marketing role, but see how you can offer and gain some marketing experience. There's also, you know, different programs of which you can, as I mentioned, like volunteer experience, really, really crucial, because then you might just, you know, do something and not get paid for a little bit, but you would get that experience, and then that may lead to something. So I'm interested if anyone else has any examples of what someone can do if they're really struggling in terms of thinking maybe marketing's not for me because they can't land the job just yet, but what they can kind of do to accelerate their path.
I can add to that. I think, especially in this job market right now, I think any ability to tap into your network is really key, right? Because people want to hire people that they know, and that hasn't changed, even though we have so many more digital tools and different resume applications and all of those things. But for me, you know, what was really helpful was tapping into, you know, friends of friends, you know, through undergrad or through my MBA program. And if I had a certain area that I was looking to, asking if they would be willing to give me an introduction, even if I didn't know them directly. A lot of folks are really willing to, you know, hop on a quick coffee chat, or, you know, willing to extend you their network. So just everyone has their network they can tap into, and I would just suggest utilizing that to its fullest potential. And even taking it a step further, can you sign up for, you know, different programs? I know the CMA, you know, hosts events like this, but also hosts networking events in person. And there's so many ways to meet people and expand your network. And I think that is, you know, a tried and true method that still really works to this day, is trying to connect with the people who can get your resume in front of the hiring manager.
Thanks, Leanne. And just building off that, another question comes in, and they're asking about, you know, how can they make a meaningful connection and leave a lasting impression? So you've done the work, you've gone networked, and maybe you got a coffee chat, or maybe you've had your first interview, or you met someone that works at the company you really want to work at. What would you guys recommend for making a lasting impression? Like, how do you stand out?
I mean, showing interest is a huge part of that. I find, I get a lot of outreach from people early on in their careers, and I was afforded a lot of luxuries in terms of people being willing to spend some time with me. So I try to pay it forward. I'm noticing that a lot of people don't understand the kind of the fine art of, a thank you, doing a little bit of research ahead of the call, handwritten thank you notes when appropriate, fantastic. Anything that separates you in a way that makes you go, that was a pleasant, or that was a great experience, or wow, that person is just like so full of great energy. You have to showcase what makes you shine to someone else before they're going to be willing to either introduce you or present you to someone else. It's not as simple as, hey, I'll just give you to my friend and they can hire you for a job. There's a large trust part of that, and you need to make sure that you're presenting and selling yourself in the best way. And I think also understanding when no means no, in terms of someone doesn't have an opportunity for you, going back to them repeatedly is not really going to benefit you. So just knowing, when to be thankful and when to provide a little bit of value back.
Yeah, great advice. And a couple people, actually, I'm just going to summarize a few of these questions. They're really wanting to know, like, what if they're new to Canada and they want to land a job in Toronto, and they don't have Canadian work experience, but they have abroad experience abroad. And so what would you suggest as advice to help get them their first Canadian marketing role?
Well, most people that I've hired, in fact, all the people that I've hired on my team have international experience. So I think perhaps now more than ever, it's international experience is truly valued. But I mean, I'm just echoing what's been said before. Do what you can to get that experience when you're here, whatever that looks like. Be creative. But I think now more than ever, it's people are valuing international experience.
Yeah, and I'd say like be able to showcase that. Like how? Like go into those projects and also use those opportunities Leeanne talked about, like with the networking, and Angelica, like with the CMA, like go to those networking events, have your little elevator pitch ready, with some real wins and things that you're proud of, and be able to showcase those in meaningful moments too. Like don't be too pushy, as Jack was referring to, because that also comes across pretty poorly. But just find the right people to share your work and create those networking opportunities. Breaking into the market is tough. So be empathetic with yourself and understand you'll get there. But put in the work first.
Yeah, and building on like kind of what CMA NXT does as well, we've noticed that a lot of our registrants and people who are in our community, they are in this space, right? They are trying to dive into the Canadian marketing landscape, and so we actually had a really great blog on the essential tips for newcomers. So I highly recommend anyone to go onto our blog page on cmanx.ca and check out that article. And we're going to be releasing more content as well with our partners at RBC with the Arrive program. So that's another great resource I'm just going to mention for anyone that is a newcomer. Kind of scrolling through some more questions. There's a little bit of interest in terms of co-ops. And so we have one question here. It is, what avenue can someone with an events background enter marketing without a co-op or internship?
I can take that. I think because I work in events roles, and we've hired lots of marketers to kind of support us. So without having direct experience, I think it's about looking at those transferable skills. Because I've also done roles where it's much more heavily marketing and then heavily events, but there's a lot of transferable skills between the two. Being organized, being creative. And I think just looking at that repertoire and the experiences and the exposures you've built up, and positioning that in how it could be applicable to a marketing position. Also, in a lot of events, you're working with, maybe there's a creative specialist involved, and you could talk to them about their path and kind of have that be your foot in the door onto their side of things. Or is there a marketer leading the event? In absence of that, who in the company has connections to marketing? So I think just looking at the people in your orbit, and is there a good pathway, and can you position your transferable skills in a way that makes you a prime candidate for that position.
Yeah, well said. And there's actually a question about getting into sports marketing. So very similar. It's like, oh, what do I do? Are there internships, co-ops? So I think that kind of relates to any industry, whether you want to get into the event side or you want to get into product marketing. So I think that those can also just be transferable advice for anyone trying to get into the certain areas that they want to jump into. So, and actually there was a question specific for you, Leeanne. What role does AI play in optimizing customer journeys? And can you share any specific examples where it significantly improved any marketing outcomes?
Oh, wow, that's a big question. So we have started to dabble with AI. I think when it comes to customer journeys, I mean, there's so much there, so hard to answer with one area. But I think where I've started to see is, looking even at, customer like response rates or different patterns that we're seeing in customer response rates. It's just helping us to get to those answers quicker, and I think in a more efficient way, or even using AI to look at our customer journey and suggest ways to improve it. So I think it's just that analytical side of it. Of course, there's so many ways to answer this question, but for me, if anyone's kind of just entering the workforce, just starting to get exposed to AI, my advice for marketers is just test it out. See, there's so many different applications, whether you're creating content, whether you're using it to help you with your strategy documents. Just test it, play around with it, and just find how it works for you, because there's endless opportunities to kind of tap into that potential. And I'm sure even a year from today, or even maybe next week, there'll be 20 more ways that we can use it, 100 more ways, and it's just continuing to grow. So just be curious about it, and try it out in your daily activities, and get comfortable with it, is what I would say.
Yeah, great advice. And it actually kind of stems to another question we have about the impact of AI agents, and particularly in the field of marketing. Like, do we believe these advancements will significantly affect marketing related roles? And so I think just a little piece on that before someone can dive into the answer is, it's how we're going to be using it as marketers. We talk a lot about this in a lot of some of the podcasts episodes we've been having, and our panels. It's really how marketers will be using these AI agents. Not that they're going to take over our work, but we got to work together. There's still a lot of ways ahead of how the different agents are going to be being used. But I think, Kevin, you were about to unmute and share something.
No, I mean, with AI, again, I'm on the MarTech Council. I should probably contribute at least a half intelligible thought. But I mean, with AI, I'm sorry, I'm getting feedback. Sorry, can you progress? I'm getting a bit of feedback. Could you just progress on to someone else? I'll jump in a second.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I'm getting a bit of an echo. So just if you could just.
Okay, yeah, we'll get back to you. Let's see what else we have here. So, how does everyone stay updated about news and trends? That's another question we have. So this is fun. Obviously, you're subscribed to the CMA. We do our top 5 Pixie newsletter. We'll definitely do a plug for that. It's a great way to see what's new, new podcast episodes we have, and new articles from our councils. So many of you are on our councils. So yeah, definitely we'll do a plug there. But what is everyone else using to stay updated?
I subscribe to a lot of the email digests that are super industry specific. So there's probably 7 that I follow that are just for creator marketing, not even everything else. I follow a few law ones that are specific to endorsement marketing, which are kind of endorsement and things like that. I also find an Apple News subscription is great at $17 a month. You get access to a ton of great Canadian news. You can also do a ton of research. Maybe kind of a controversial answer. I find starting with something like a ChatGPT and asking it where you can find some of those resources and using that to then go vet those yourself can also be a really great tool for discovery.
I'd also throw in some conferences and things like that. There's a ton. Some are free, some are costly, but always, I think, something to get out of those. And then CMA courses, other institutions, there's one-offs that you can take, just always learning. Also, if you guys have not dabbled as yet, Google Digital Garage also has some free courses available. There's endless tools and resources out there to stay fresh, for sure.
I think I'm back. But I mean, to Jack's point about leveraging large language models as well, I mean, take prompt engineering courses to learn how to use them, because you can truly converse with these platforms. So I find that an excellent starting point, as well as everything everyone said.
I'd just like to add one last little thing. There's also LinkedIn Learning, and anyone in the GTA that commutes, you can do a lot of learning on your drive home. You can do it on the bus. You can, do it on your lunch hour. And these are courses that allow you to show certification on your own profile, which shows to people that you're invested in your own growth and capacity. Also, if you're really keen on someone who is an influencer or an industry leader, dig into what they follow. That you're already going to be in the same interest vein, and they may have, potentially lots of areas that you can go into. You can sign up for those emails, you can follow feeds and threads, you can have notification when they say something exciting. So I'd dig into the creative leaders that inspire you.
Yeah, that's a great point, Amy. And just looking at some of these other questions that chat about, like, do you need a degree nowadays, to get into marketing? And I think a lot of us are touching, there's a lot of additional learning. So like there's your standard, post-secondary education, that is obviously influential in terms of getting you prepared for a career. But in marketing specifically, like we launched the Chartered Marketer designation for this reason. So, whether you want to jump into an accelerated path because you have a background in marketing, fantastic. But if you don't, we can start you in from like Core 1, which is really exciting, that there's now this designation that people that are in marketing can kind of add to their career path. So that's one way. And I really love all the other ideas that were shared in terms of kind of just doing your own learning. So many ways to do that now with online and social. And then there's a question here about, what are your thoughts about introverts or ambiverts in marketing?
I can speak to that actually, because I think that, the world, especially in marketing, there can be a pressure to be very extroverted. And I personally identify more, I'm more introverted. I need my time to recharge. But I also think, as an introvert, I've also had to learn, when to turn it on, when to, be able to present, kind of lean into that different skill set. So I don't think there's anything wrong, and you shouldn't have to, change who you are. It's just about learning when are the moments I need to really channel in that energy and knowing yourself, right? If you know that you need to maybe have a quiet night in the day before you give a big presentation because you just need to charge up that social battery, I think there's ways to kind of lean into that and work towards your own personal, personality and your own kind of default settings, while also learning to push yourself out of your comfort zone in those moments and kind of tap into that extroverted energy when you need to. So I think there's a balance, and there's absolutely no reason why you can't be introverted and still thrive in the marketing world as well.
Great, thank you. And there's a specific question here for Amy. So Calvin says, I've started a role as a marketing designer. How can I advance in my career beyond designing a poster or flyer? How do I learn more about areas like store design or understanding the metrics behind how out-of-home media contributes to brand and sales?
It may be a situation where you have to take that first step. And if you can get a position as a junior or an intermediate designer and express your willingness and interest to be exploring these other avenues. Personally, as a hiring manager, I look for that as much as I look for experience. You may have to come in and do that weekly churn, which is the posters and things, but anyone putting their hand up, I'm willing to learn and do more and try in some of these other areas of the department. They're going to get the attention. Even that introverted person, you can do it quietly. You can find a leader that leads with, the right care, and they'll bring you out of your shell. So if you can, everyone has a budget and needs to get along in life. But if you can take those entry-level positions and be willing to put in a bit of time, but be willing to put yourself forward, that's the ticket to get forward, especially with someone like me. I'm compassionate to everyone trying to get into the workforce. It is challenging right now. So you're going to have to put yourself out there.
Very, very good advice. Someone here is also asking, what to do when you're building your portfolio, when everyone's asking for experience, where do you start? And I think a big piece of that is, depending on which avenue you want to go to, like of marketing, in terms of building your portfolio. So for example, like Amy mentioned, if it's in the design world, then you get started on some of those smaller scale projects and do the work, right? Do the posters. But if you're in events, there's all these like brand ambassador roles you can do. And I'm interested, does anyone else have any suggestions about like how to build a portfolio?
Yeah, your portfolio doesn't have to be things that you've been paid for, and it doesn't have to be things that you've been employed for. And I think that's something that a lot of people miss. A project that you want to bring to life because you're passionate about it is still experience. So for someone who's maybe interested in getting into events, maybe you are volunteering with a local organization and you're helping them with third-party events where you help out at a community fundraiser of some kind. That is experience. Maybe you are super passionate about some sort of character or some sort of thing that you're bringing to life, showing whatever book or thing that you've designed for that is also experience. So, don't be stuck on just thinking that you have to show, current brand things. It can be things that you enjoy and have done, because those are just as relevant and sometimes a better representation of what you can do.
Yeah, great advice. And there's even another question that goes about like, how do I get my experience in copywriting, for example? Same idea, right? You can just kind of do some of the suggestions that you provided. Likewise, when someone's trying to get into more of a marketing management role, same idea. So I'm just kind of going through some of these questions here. Another one we had is, it said that podcasting is one of the purest form of marketing. What marketing segments, topics, or strategies do you think are really underrated?
I mean, it's not underrated, but it's usually the pillar of what I do within digital marketing. It's always search, right? I mean, people kind of sometimes like the sexy stuff around social. I'm talking digital marketing, but the sexy stuff about building a social campaign, something visual, something tangible. But for me, it usually always, again, this is not underrated because it's the foundation of what we do in marketing. But I always start with search. But from a consumer, I mean, that's where I go to get my information is podcasts, because that long form content really helps dive into topics where a 30-second YouTube video cannot.
I can also add to that, because I think I was trying to think of what's underrated, because I can think of all the things that people are talking about, but I think good user experience, like that's something that when it's working perfectly, you don't notice it, and if it's a bad user experience, then you really notice it. So I think the attention to detail, really putting on your consumer cap when you're testing those things and viewing it from their lens, I think that goes a long way. And yeah, it doesn't always get the credit maybe, because people just expect, especially in today's world, that it's going to be a flawless user experience. But I would say that's one of the underrated components of a marketing journey.
Yeah, and there's another question here that I think is a little fun. It's the biggest thing you learned in marketing within the industry that you were never taught in school. Anyone have a good example there?
Don't make copy changes to a creative director's work. Learned that one very quickly. You're not always necessarily right early in your career, even when you think you are, and sometimes you are, but guess what? That doesn't matter. So being aware of things, but knowing when there's a time and place for you to make those suggestions.
Marketing is not about dollars out, dollars in, because that's one of the things that, especially when you're reporting to executive, they'll look for is what is the ROI on this campaign, and it's never that simple. So just be careful with that.
I think marketing, when I was learning sort of the whole genre, seemed, advertising, aggressive, go, 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 bring in like you were just saying, bring in the dollars, make a big splash. You have to be loud and in the face of everyone. And I actually find that marketing has a whole lot of humility and humbleness to it. And I think you would be remiss if you never went back and revisited your work. Especially if you put something out into the market, you had better be willing to follow it up and ensure that it's still accurate and still healthy if it's intended to stay in the market. And although my professors and leaders said, yeah, double check your work, I don't think it was impressed upon me enough that you always need to go back and make sure that what you've put out there is still of value, still correct. And God, if you made a mistake, you better own up to it. Own it first instead of someone catching you on it. That would be super valuable.
I have another one I'll add is I think a good lesson to be learned is that when you're operating in the marketing function, it's not just the customers that you have to view as your clients, but it's also your stakeholders in the business. And part of that, the same way you have to speak, consumers' language and speak to them in a way that they're going to resonate with, it's the same for stakeholders in your business. You can't just position things from the view of the marketing world and the marketing bubble. It's about how does that translate to their different areas of the business? What does that mean for the finance team? What does that mean for operations? And I think being able to adjust the way you're speaking to those different stakeholders just helps you build those relationships and helps you partner with them in a much more efficient way.
Yeah, great. And now actually someone had a question kind of, we've talked a lot about like you're new to getting into your first job, or you're really early in your career. Someone here has over 8 years of work experience in sales and business development, and they want to pivot to marketing. And so what advice, does anyone have any advice for this person?
I mean, a salesperson, in my role, I kind of have to be a bit of a salesperson. I manage salespeople for other people. And really, if you're a salesperson, you already are a marketer. You know how to tell a story. You know how to deliver value to someone when they're looking for it. You know how to suss out an opportunity. So I think it's just taking what you've sold and showing some of those successes, either in what you created or kind of what you were able to help accomplish that way, and bringing that towards whatever that marketing role might be. You may have some gaps in terms of what can be done, but those are easy to learn. There's a lot of resources. So lean into what you're good at, because a lot of times there's jobs that will have 10 requirements, but the reality is they may only need 2 or 3 of those to be really good, and the rest can be picked up on the job. So, make the ask and lean into what you're good at.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a great level of advice, because especially if you're switching, understanding that, talk with the marketers within your company as well, right? Like sales and marketing go hand in hand. I think we all kind of begin to learn that. So that's a great point right there. And then someone had a question about, giant versus smaller companies, which one to focus on first. And I think we can all kind of attest and share some experience here, because in the smaller roles, you kind of get to wear many hats. In the bigger roles, you might be a little bit more siloed, but you can jump around. So I think we all kind of shared some of our experiences on that question. And then we chatted about trends and shaping the future of digital marketing. So we kind of chatted about that already a little bit. And then someone's saying, if you study digital marketing, can you still apply to work in traditional marketing positions? And yeah, of course, I think we're all saying you can kind of jump around. So yeah, a lot of these questions are really tying into the fact that you can do a lot in your marketing role, as long as you chat with the different teams and get to know really what everyone's doing in your company, and you can kind of jump around in that front. So it's really exciting with marketing. There's a lot of opportunity. And so jumping to see what else we have here. In terms of career progression in marketing, is it true that the higher you go up, the more likely you'll be only managing people and teams? Is it realistic in marketing to stay just a technical expert throughout your career?
That's an excellent question. I mean, from my experience, the higher that you go, the more it does become about management, and even maybe less so management, administrative components, because I mean, I think half of my job is filing invoices and making sure all vendors are paid accordingly. But no, that's a really good question. But I mean, obviously you can continue to do what you do, especially if you're in a more technical area. But yeah. I'm sure lots of people have feedback on this one.
I have a really relative experience where I have gone through kind of all the roles and rackets of being, the little person being heavily managed by multiple layers, slowly moving up having a team in multiple environments that I've been in, and recently said, yeah, you know what? I would like to be over there and trying that. And so the pressure was put back on me. Well, if you go over there to try that, you won't be leading a team anymore. And as much as I miss leading my team because it was a great rapport, I decided to move away from being a leader. And it's just as rewarding. It's just very different. And I'm actually deeper into the creative side of things now than I had been, which is very rewarding. And I still have people lead me, so I'm not out of, the control factor anywhere. But I don't pigeonhole yourself that you always have to be a leader to move up. You can still move up and maybe not have a team to lead.
Yeah, great. Another question we have is just summarizing some of these. We do have 10 minutes, and I know everyone kind of wants to probably wrap up soon, grab some dinner. So just really love all the questions, and we're going to provide a lot of this kind of content because there's questions about co-op placements and getting even a job at the CMA and more events and more emerging platforms. So we'll definitely share a lot of this stuff in the post events. I'll wrap it up with this one question here. We've all shared our advice. We've shared kind of tips and tricks about in the marketing profession, but this one here, we had a question about something you wish you had known when starting your career in marketing. So we chatted about the advice, but what's something that like you didn't know and then now you've uncovered, and that'd be something that like I think would be a nice question to be answered with it by everyone to kind of close off our session today.
I can start us off. I think the first thing that came to mind was you have to really be your own cheerleader. And I think that, especially if you love school and, you kind of got used to, okay, if I do the good work, I'll get the good grades, I'll get the credit. I think what's really important when you're transitioning into the workforce is a lot of the work you do might not be visible. And I think really making sure that you get good at summarizing the work you've done, understanding how it brings value to the team and the company, and sharing that with people. I think it can feel a little uncomfortable at first if you're not used to kind of communicating in that way, but get comfortable with it, work with your manager on how to get that visibility, take on stretch projects, just being your own advocate and really asking for what you want. I think that was the biggest thing that I wish I had known a little bit sooner, because it's been, really a helpful tool to have learned.
Leanne stole my answer, so I'll go next. But I mean, it's essentially is that plus you can take your career in whatever direction you want. I mean, coming out of school, you get so caught up in this is what I am, this is what I do. But in reality, you can go in whatever direction you want.
I never realized maybe the value of what some people call headhunters. Working with a creative agency to suss out those opportunities that you could fit into. There are people out there that, yes, there's a fee involved, but they'll take and look at your talent, your skill, your opportunity, work in potentially your international flavor, all of those things. And they go out and do some of the feeling for you. And they can find those opportunities that may not be crystal clear marketing opportunities, but they'll put you on the path and in the door of that potential work. So you can consider something like that. And I didn't really lean into that until I ran into kind of an unhappy position and I was looking to move out. And since then, I've never broken that relationship. I speak with that mentor all the time, even though I'm not looking for work.
We're just building off that before we kind of get our final two answers. Someone once told me that they successfully were in their career. They've been working for 30, 40 years in marketing, and they said they love meeting someone new like every week. And like, it's so important how I remember when in school, when people would tell me, it's who you know, and you're like, oh yeah, sure. But it really is like, sometimes you might not land a role right away. And then you've met someone, you had a great coffee chat. And then, in the summer, they message you and they say, I think you'd be a perfect candidate for this role. So like that power of knowing people and getting mentors is huge. So that was just to build off what you said, Amy, but yeah, anything else? Anyone has anything to share?
Yeah, I think on that note of the mentors, when you're reaching out and asking for people, they're still people. Make friends with your Like, you don't have to be friends with everyone you work with, but be friendly in a way, because you will be surprised at how many people you may have worked with 10 years ago end up becoming incredible friends and incredible people in your life. So there is that really big value in that community, right? And that doesn't always have to be talking about work. Maybe that's the thing you talk about 1% of the time, right? So have some personal interests and make real connections with people, because the rest will figure itself out as long as you've got people that you can talk to.
Yeah, and just to wrap it up here, I'd say absolutely selling yourself. That was the biggest learning I've had. I think it's not just specific to women, but definitely as a woman, I found that really, really hard to, I guess, like pump my tires amongst leadership teams and finding those unique opportunities. But I think the biggest learning that I've had is really how applicable marketing is to every lane. So we're talking about sales earlier, like you're learning those marketing skills. I was talking to corporate real estate folks internally within the organization. They're looking for marketers to find ways at the time, bringing it back to COVID, bringing people back to office and finding those useful opportunities through like a marketing lens. So I think it's just understanding that marketing is everywhere. You might not necessarily be labeled marketing or be outside like a traditional, I guess, image of it. But keeping an eye out, and that will also help your career path. Like just follow those curiosities and it will open doors like you won't even believe. So
Amazing. Thank you, everyone. I hope that this was helpful for everyone that tuned in. I remember, being back in school, like there wasn't a lot of events in marketing. And so like that's what really the CMA Next community is about, is coming in and helping those that need to get some answers and don't have the chance to maybe network with people. And so we're going to continue to do these types of events. And I'm so grateful for everyone that took the time here on the call to share your advice, tips, and your experiences. And yeah, let's all stay connected. And I welcome you to continue to follow along with what the CMA is up to. I think the events team is going to pull up just a quick little slide here to showcase some upcoming fun things going on. So like I mentioned, there's a lot of questions about, certifications and what to do. And so I really encourage anyone who's interested to learn more about the Charter Marketer program. We have these info sessions that I run them along with our learning team, and they're a really great way to understand, what is a Charter Marketer designation? How do you go about getting it? And are you approved, for example, for the accelerated pathway? So maybe you don't have to do the whole program. And there's also a really cool opportunity to get a fully funded scholarship and financial support to do the CM. So definitely check that out. It's just a half-hour call if you want to tune in to learn more about that. We will be doing some fun new events with the next community in the CMA. So stay tuned. We're going to have our big marketing week coming up, which is in May. And we're definitely going to be doing something that's going to be a hybrid option to get some of you that are more local to network and get to know each other. And a lot of questions were about volunteer experience. So definitely check out the Get Involved section on cmanext.ca, where you can apply to become a brand ambassador. And that's a great opportunity to help us out to really spread the word about CMA Next and gain relevant marketing volunteer experience that you can complement along if you have an internship or a co-op, or you don't have either and you're really looking to get some experience. So thank you everyone for your time today. Have a great night, and stay tuned for the post-event email. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.